Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Provost Conversation on online learning in a virtual environment. I hope that you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. Over the years, we have invited leading experts to share their vision on the future of education and specifically around online education. And it is through such conversations that we learn and share knowledge to enhance teaching and learning efforts, not only online, but also on campus, to ensure the richest and most dynamic educational experience possible for Columbia students, as well as learners outside the university. In the past 2 months, entire businesses and industries, schools and universities have had to transform and abruptly adapt to an online environment. So it is timely that we are joined today by a pioneer who can tell us more about how one of the world's largest online learning platforms is helping support this new normal. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Anant Agarwal, founder and CEO of edX, and the first speaker to return for a second Provost Conversation on online learning. Please join me in welcoming Anant.
Thank you, Suleiman. I'm impressed. Some of you have discovered the clap feature in Zoom. I'm still trying to come to grips with all of the online features that exist. So first of all, let me start by thanking Suleiman for having me on here, and thank you all for joining. Let me also wish all of you good health and safety in these absolutely unreal times. Certainly, this time is one where I've never seen in my lifetime. It's completely unreal, and I really hope good health for all of you, all of us. Next slide, please, Suleiman. In this hour, I'd like to spend some time talking about. I give you a quick introduction to who edX is. Spend some time talking about what we're seeing during COVID-19. What are we doing along with the university partners, and then dream a little bit about what the future might look like post COVID and beyond. edX is a nonprofit. We are an online learning platform founded by Harvard and MIT. We partner with some of the world's leading institutions, and you see some of them listed on the slide. Institutions like Oxford and MIT and Columbia and Berkeley and Harvard and others that are among 150 global institutions that create content on our platform and that partner with us on reimagining education. And then on the other side, we have nearly 30 million global learners from every single country in the world who have taken nearly 100 million courses on edX since we were founded about 9 years ago. As you can see, some of the numbers are pretty staggering. We have over 3,000 courses on edX. 500 million problem sets have been tackled. And people talk about completion rates all the time. For people on the certificate track in edX courses, which we believe is a reasonable measure, we are seeing completion rates of about 60 to 70% of the students completing when they are joining that track. Next slide, please. edX is a nonprofit, as I said, and as a nonprofit, we were founded on 3 pillars. And these 3 pillars have remained unchanged in the past 9 years. As things have changed in the world and all kinds of things have happened, our founding tenets have stayed the same. First was to increase access to high quality education for everybody. Second, we wanted to reimagine education as we know it, both on campus and online, and improve it in quality. And third, to advance teaching and learning through research. How do we build a platform where we can gather what I like to joke is the big data for learning and use that to facilitate research in learning? These have been the 3 tenets of edX as a nonprofit and continue to be that way even after 9 years that we were founded. Next slide, please. Columbia has been a partner of edX since the early days, and we've been so excited and proud to have you as a partner. You have been innovating alongside us throughout the years. You have 1.5 million enrollments in your courses. 15,000 courses and program certificates have been awarded in your courses. You have launched a MicroMasters, a number of MicroMasters programs, a total of 5 programs. You have a MicroMasters in Artificial Intelligence. You also have MicroMasters in Business Analytics and 39 courses on our platform. We're very proud to have you as a partner and continue this amazing collaboration. Big numbers aside, at the end of the day, it's about individual learners. And here is just one example of a learner in your courses. Jessica is a high school teacher. She's based in the US, and she took statistical thinking for data science and analytics. And she's a school teacher. And she uses that and the knowledge that she gained to get additional qualifications as a teacher and to enlarge her expertise in her teaching role. Next slide, please. So in the next few slides, I'd like to quickly talk about what we're seeing out there today. Our entire world changed about 8 weeks ago. What are we doing about it? Where we include edX partners in edX. And then I'd like to talk a bit about what the future of education might look like, what the new normal might look like. Next slide, please. Next slide. So as we look at the reality before, during, and post-COVID, it can be summarized very quickly. Before March 2020 in the US, edX and our great partners such as yourselves, we were on a mission to reimagine education together. And 3% of the world was learning online. And then just a few weeks later, today, 100% of the world has pivoted and is learning online. 100% of the work is also working remotely. And it really behooves us to think about what will the future look like. It almost seems like 2 bookends here, from 3% of the world being online to 100% of the world being online. And I'll talk and brainstorm with you a little bit about what might the future look like in this new normal. Just as some statistics here, the number of learners affected are in the billions. It's completely unreal. Every single country has had all of their universities and workplaces closed as people learn from home. And this is the reality today because of COVID-19. Next slide, please. On edX, here is what we are seeing today. We have seen, since we are an online learning platform, we have seen a huge uptick in traffic as people hunker down at home and are looking for ways to either learn something new or improve their skills. You'll be surprised to see that if you compare the week of March 7th, so this was the week, think of it as the week before COVID really hit, and compare that to the week of April 11th. Okay, so the week in early March to a week of April 11th. Think of it as before COVID and during COVID. If you compare the registered students, the number of students who registered on edX during these 2 weeks, the number of people registering in the week of April 11th was 15 times higher than the week of March 7th. So that is 1,400% higher during this week versus the week in March. Similarly, enrollments in courses has gone up 10 times during this same period. And again, the statistics I'll be sharing will be comparing the week of April 11th to the week of March 7th, and just a span of 5 weeks between these two, and we'll look at some data. So what we're seeing, some of the, you might imagine, courses on edX on health and safety have skyrocketed. Enrollments have gone up 38 times. And again, I'm not talking percentages here. This is 38x, 38 times. Humanities has skyrocketed 15 times. Social sciences up by a factor of 12. in the week in April versus the week in March. And of course, the usual staples of edX, which were often computer science, business management, data analytics, data science, statistics, are all up in the 7, 8, 9x. So they were already high, but even they have gone up by what seems like a whole order of magnitude. One interesting fact is that there's been an inversion. The enrollment, we had some great humanities courses, including one of the great courses on edX from Columbia on the Civil War and Reconstruction, one of our humanities courses. There's been an inversion in that the humanities and social science and public health courses are seeing huge upticks compared to computer science and data science and business, which are seeing merely a 10x, merely a 10x increase in numbers. And then the next question you ask is, where are the students coming from? And again, it's from edX had students from all over the world. The US has increased somewhat. US was at 25% before, it's up to about 30%. India has skyrocketed. India used to be at about 10%, and in India has grown to 27%. Brazil was about 3-4%. Brazil is up at 10%. UK has gone up as well. So you can see that all countries have really gone up, but US, India, Brazil, and UK are particularly, particularly high. India in particular, as well as Brazil, these two countries have been off the charts in terms of the spike in enrollments from those two countries. Next slide, please. Then, a natural question you ask is, okay, why are learners coming to edX to take your online courses during this time? So, we do surveys, we gather data from all sorts of sources. So we ask learners, why are you coming to edX to learn during COVID-19? And so we did a survey of our learners, this was about a week ago, and here's some data. 38% are coming because they have more time and on their hands and they want to learn something new. 25%, this has been a previous staple of edX, 35% are coming to edX because they want to upskill in their current job, in their current role. 16% are students who are using edX as a replacement for campus learning. Whether it's high school students or college students, all of them are home and they're learning from home. And 16% of them are using courses on edX to replace what they've been learning on campus. And then 11.4% are people who have come to edX who've been newly unemployed or furloughed. And they're using that time to learn. And then 9.6% are other reasons. So it's pretty amazing to see what these statistics look like. In the next chunk, let me talk about what are we doing. And by we, I mean our university partners like Columbia and others and edX. What are we doing together? What is the response to COVID-19? So in the past 6 weeks, you can think of what we're doing in 3 broad categories. What are we doing for individual learners? What are we doing for universities? And these are universities around the world, not just edX partners. And what are we doing for companies? And how are we working to help them prepare for the new normal? For individual learners, if you go to edX.org and check it out, we have a new banner. And the banner will take you immediately to a COVID-19 response page that we launched. And we launched one in both our Spanish site and in our English site. And we've already had, this number is a week or so old, and the number has gone past 100,000. So we have learners coming to the site to look at all the resources that we offer. I also sent an email to all our learners and encouraging them during this time, and also pointing to various resources that they might have that might be handy, including pointing them to a new how to learn online course that we created. Next slide, please. Our partners have really come together and are working like crazy. We are on a war with coronavirus, and our partners are reacting at a war footing. So let me give you some incredible examples. So Harvard, in collaboration with Dr. Susan Wilcox from the Mass General Hospital and in collaboration with the Schmidt Futures Foundation. This is the foundation created by Eric Schmidt and Wendy Schmidt. In this collaboration, we launched about 2 weeks ago a new course on how to use mechanical ventilators. So we've heard about ventilator shortages, but there's also shortages of people who understand how to use ventilators, and many healthcare professionals are being pulled in from other disciplines. And so we launched this course on mechanical ventilation, and already this in space of 2 weeks, this course has 180,000 people signed up from all over the world, mostly healthcare professionals. There's a surgeon from Chennai in India. There's a registered nurse from your own fair city of New York. There's an OBGYN from Colombia, not your Colombia, but the Colombia in South America. And so it's amazing to see the discussion forum in this course, which has become a place where all of these professionals are discussing, hey, I'm using this technique in India, or this is working for me here. It's become a live source of information and a just-in-time course that was launched. Our partner Javeriana launched a course on both COVID and ventilation in Spanish. At a war footing, many learners were asking us, hey, I don't know how to learn online. And so edX launched a course on how to learn online. And from start to finish, it took us 2 weeks to produce this course. And already this course has 40,000 learners enrolled on how to learn online. And it's incredible when you go to the forums, discussion forum, and see learners talking to each other. Just as one example, there was a learner from, just this morning I was on it, a learner from UAE was saying, hey, I'd love to get into a little social group with somebody. Someone want to join me. And an Indian learner jumped up and said, yep, let's get together on WhatsApp and let's take this course together. And so learners are creating small communities in WhatsApp and other forums, in addition to the edX discussion forum, to connect with each other. And UP Valencia in Spain, within days, translated this course completely into Spanish. And this course is now available in Spanish as well. UT Arlington launched a course on March 15th for faculty on how to pivot to online teaching. And so just the response from our partner universities on courses in public health, on global pandemics, on pivoting to online teaching and how to learn online has just been absolutely amazing. And I just cannot be prouder of our partner community in stepping up in this situation. Next slide. Universities, so that's what we did for learners. Universities are also asking edX for support. So edX member universities and universities around the world are asking, hey, we are scrambling to move all our faculty and courses to online so students can finish the semester. This is impacting residential students and our students abroad. One university asked us, hey, there are a lot of students that they've admitted into the fall semester, and these students are likely stuck in India, China, Europe, and other countries. And it's not clear whether travel is going to work or not. So they're asking us, hey, can we either use an existing edX MicroMasters program, or can we create a MicroMasters program for students to get a leg up and do some learning, even as they cannot come to a university and cannot travel? Can they use a MicroMasters for that? And then, going online today means, okay, let's use Zoom and do exactly what we did on campus before. And a lot of them are asking, yep, that's what we did with Zoom, but is there a better option? Can edX help with better options? Can we train faculty fast enough and create online courses fast enough for the future? I've been really, really proud of many of the companies and nonprofits who are edX partners. The first thing they asked us was, we know universities are struggling, how can we help? They are ready to offer help. And as many other examples, many non-edX members have reached out saying, we just don't have online content. We just don't know what to do. Is there a way that edX can help us and give us access to content during the corona outbreak? Here's just an example from the University of Philippines. So this is what we're hearing from both our partners and from universities around the world. Next slide, please. So our partners and edX, we responded. And let me give you a shout out to Colombia for participating in this program. So edX launched edX Online Campus. And during the COVID-19 period, we launched edX Online Campus for free. edX Online Campus allows any accredited institution around the world, a college or a university, anywhere around the world, free access to courses on edX from our participating edX partners like Columbia through June 30, 2020. So if you're a university like University of Philippines and you want content for your students, you can sign up on edX very quickly, use edX Online Campus, and you can have all your students, your thousands of your students, take edX courses for free, including certificates during the COVID-19 period. And there's been such a big demand for edX Online Campus that we are accelerating the edX Online Campus solution even after COVID-19, so that universities, much like companies, can sign up their students to access edX courses. And so we are really, really proud of our partners like Columbia University, MIT, Harvard, Berkeley, TU Delft, IIM Bangalore, IIT Bombay. A significant number of our partners are pitching in and being part of edX Online Campus for free to help universities all over the world. We're also talking to entire countries right now, the education ministries of countries, where they want to help all of the hundreds of universities in their country take advantage of this offer from edX partner universities. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you, Columbia and edX partner universities, for partnering with us and doing something so important during these heart-rending times. Next slide, please. And here's what we're hearing from partners already. So UP Valencia, one of our partners, said, very grateful for this initiative. Other people have said that, thank you for this generous support. Hong Kong University is using this on campus for their students. This is really helpful in these very difficult times. Another emerging theme, and this begins to presage what we might be seeing in the future, what we're seeing is that many edX partners are proactively helping learners by extending assignment due dates. Many partners are also extending course dates. Just as one example, one of the most popular courses on edX right now is the happiness course from Berkeley. How to be happy, science of happiness. And this course, enrollments in this course have skyrocketed by a factor of 31. And this course was ending on June 30th. And so Berkeley very graciously extended the deadline for this course and extended by a few more months so people can continue taking advantage of this course. Partners are also making courses self-paced. So we have both self-paced courses that are available all the time and instructor-paced courses. So partners are readily making the courses self-paced so that learners can come in. Universities can have the students start the course at any time. So we encourage universities to make courses self-paced. And partners are enabling archived courses or courses that we're not running to make them run, again, to help this huge, huge demand, 10, 20x demand in courses that is happening right now. Here's an example of edX Online Campus impact. And this is one university that was actually using edX Online Campus even before the COVID-19. And in their case, they were using the University of California, San Diego Data Science MicroMasters as part of their campus master's degree. So their students would take the 4 courses from edX, from UCSD, and then they would take 6 courses from the campus faculty. It was a blended offering, 4 courses from edX and 4 courses from the campus faculty, 6 courses from the campus faculty. And they would offer the master's degree. And what Umar Saif, the founding vice chancellor, told us was that since their students were already learning online and taking these courses, transferring to home-based learning was utterly seamless for their university for this program. And so we are seeing and hearing more and more of this. And similarly, we're helping companies get their workforces coming online as well. Next slide. So now let me segue to the next part of my discussion. Where do we see, what is the new normal in education going to be like? And edX partners in edX, we've been reimagining education by thinking about how education could become more modular, omnichannel education, aka blended learning, and lifelong education. And these three components were in our DNA for edX and our partners. What we see happening now is we see rapid acceleration of these three important trends, which were already in progress, but we see them rapidly accelerating. So let's talk about modular education first. Modular education means that people will want to be doing smaller chunks of learning. Instead of, there'll be people who want full degrees, master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, but there'll be many people that will want chunks of learning. And the MicroMasters program is about 25% of a master's degree that you can take. And if you complete that, you can get a MicroMaster certificate. We have an amazing MicroMasters from Columbia in artificial intelligence. And many companies like GE and others will guarantee interviews to learners that achieve a certificate in MicroMasters programs. These are flexible. These are fully online programs. These are affordable. It's about $1,000 to $2,000 to complete. And if they get admission into the university, following their MicroMasters, if they get admission, then this will accelerate their campus degree as well. And we'll see more in the modular credentials are taking hold in a big way in the future. One, because learners will want modular credentials. And second, as learners travel and so on, and let's say learners are stuck in China and they can't come to the US, hey, maybe they can complete a MicroMasters while they're waiting in China or India or other places. And then by the time they come to campus, they can get started on the rest of the degree. Next slide, please. We also launched MicroBachelors programs in January of this year. The MicroBachelors programs are modular programs at the undergraduate level. So as one example, we have a MicroBachelors program in Foundations of Computer Science from NYU. It's got one course in programming, one course in networking, one course in systems. And you complete the three courses, you get a MicroBachelors certificate in CS Foundations. It's a modular program. And MicroBachelors tend to be roughly 3 credits to 9 credits, 3 to 9 credit hours in terms of length. And they can help in 2 ways. One, people will be earning MicroBachelors credentials just as a credential and then continuing on in their careers. They just want a small micro credential, a MicroBachelors, and that's it. Others may view it as a pathway to a full degree. They might complete it before they start university while in high school, or they might stack these up towards a full bachelor's degree. Since COVID-19, we have seen a 51-fold increase in enrollments in the Introduction to Computing and Programming Foundations from NYU, which is part of this MicroBachelors. 51-fold increase in enrollments in that program. We also offer live mentoring services to students in MicroBachelors programs to help them succeed. Next slide, please. Our modular programs enable stacking, where you can complete a program and then go on for a full master's degree. So for example, we have a MicroMasters in Supply Chain Management from MIT. And ASU, Arizona State University, launched a full online master's degree in supply chain on edX. And what they did, this is radical, was they said, you know what? There is a MicroMasters in supply chain from MIT. So what they said is, we will create the complementary set of courses so that students now complete the MicroMasters from MIT. They then apply to ASU. And if they get admission, they continue on for the online master's degree on edX. And so you can see modular education enables stacking, where you build on top of each other, and also enables sharing. And what is amazing here is that MIT and ASU are the world's #1 and #2 ranked programs in supply chain management. And now when you have the world's top 2 ranked programs sharing, I think this is going to presage a new era when more universities will begin sharing content from each other as opposed to trying to do everything themselves. Next slide, please. We've also launched modular master's degrees on edX. But we have nearly 15 master's degrees on edX. They're all innovative. Each of the master's degrees has a foundational MicroMasters as part of it, which serves as, for students, it's an open admissions, and students can just take that credential. But many of them will apply for admissions and continue on for a full master's degree. So the MicroMaster serves as a taster, if you will, of what it is like to study from that university. very exciting again. And so we've launched a computer science degree from UT Austin. We've launched a data analytics degree from Georgia Tech, a cybersecurity degree from Georgia Tech. We've launched a MBA from Boston University for $25,000. And here is what Chris Delarocas, who's the Associate Provost for Digital Learning at BU, has to say. He says that we have done more thinking about the future of education in these 3 months for the online MBA than we did in 10 years. So at edX, we are just so incredibly proud to partner with you all, where in a small way, we're able to be a catalyst along with you to create the conversations on campus about thinking about the future of education. So we've launched 15 master's degrees. We've launched a master's in electrical engineering from Purdue for about $20,000. We launched 2 weeks ago, we launched a master's in mechanical engineering from Purdue. A master's in civil engineering is about to come in a few, in short order. And so just incredibly proud of our partners here launching these online degrees on edX. And all of them are innovative. They're all stacked programs in that there's a MicroMasters, and then the rest of the degree is a stacked program. Next slide, please. Modularity enables sharing. I already talked about how a university in Pakistan is using a MicroMasters from another university for on-campus use. And just 3 months ago, before COVID, I was in India, and I spent a morning at Jain University in Bangalore. And Jain University is going to use a number of MicroMasters, including the AI MicroMasters, to be using it on campus for their campus students. And they also will be using the MicroBachelors program for the computer science students. So as students are studying at the university, they will be including many of these MicroMasters and MicroBachelors programs for their students. And edX online campus, I believe, is certainly for edX, it's going to be the new normal. It's here to stay. And it will be here to stay for universities as well. Next slide, please. As I said earlier, during COVID times, universities are asking us, can we use MicroMasters for students who cannot travel? And we've seen a huge upsurge in interest for MicroMasters programs from our existing university partners. During COVID times, learners want short programs to increase their optionality and employability after COVID-19. They don't have time to do a full degree, maybe some do, some don't, and they want short programs. They want the optionality of going for a full degree later. Universities are adopting modular programs from other institutions because they're forced by internal capacity limits to create online content. They just cannot create online content fast enough. And so they're adopting modular programs like MicroMasters and MicroBachelors. High schoolers are using their time at home to get a leg up on college. There's conversations at many universities about what is going to happen in the fall. I think I know what's going to happen. I believe, with a good likelihood that a lot of universities will also not be opening campuses in the fall. I just worry, how do you do that? What happens to all the students? What happened to admitted students? I believe high schoolers will be looking for MicroBachelors to get a leg up on college before they go to college. I think this is here to stay. Next slide. The next component I want to talk about is omnichannel learning or blended learning. And you saw this happen in retail when Amazon acquired Whole Foods, where retail has gone completely omnichannel. Similarly, next slide, we will see the same thing happen in education as well. And a lot of it was happening before. You saw the work at ITU in Pakistan, where they adopted UCSD's online program. Many of our partners are doing the same thing. Many experiments at Georgia Tech, MIT, and many of our universities, Berkeley and others. At MIT, for example, in spring and fall of 2016 and spring of 2017, we offered a circuits course to students, fully online, where roughly half the students took the campus course, and roughly half the students took the fully online course. And a research paper was written by Anne Marshall, and the studies were pretty incredible, where the stress level for the online students was 1 whole standard deviation lower than the campus students. And they were both given the same exam, and the exam performance was within experimental error. And so there have been radical studies at peer institutions like MIT and Georgia Tech, where they've shown that the online experience, and this is 100% online, it's not blended, 100% online, is comparable in quality and rigor to a fully in-person experience. And so I believe that blended is going to be the new normal, where as universities and students get a taste for online, there'll be more of this happening. At MIT already, 99% of MIT undergraduates, this was before COVID, are using the edX platform on campus for their residential work. This was before COVID-19. And after COVID-19, we are hearing even more of this. And Nelson Baker, who's a dean of professional education, Georgia Tech, he says the gap between residential and online will become narrower in the future. The new normal is blended. It is online, has many good things. In-person has many good things. And when you blend the two together, it simply is better than each one. And not only is blended better for business continuity, blended is simply better than purely online or purely in-person for universities. We will see an accelerated adoption of online as faculty and students get a crash immersion in online teaching and learning. One of my faculty colleagues mentioned the following. He said, my lecture, when he taught online for the first time, my lecture with the highest student engagement in my career was my first online lecture, which he started about a month ago. So many faculty are coming new to this, and they're seeing a radical adoption. I think work will also become omnichannel. Just as an example, few companies were fully remote before COVID-19, like GitLab was fully remote. But then we all went from 0% to 100% online work. And for me, I save 2 hours in my commute because this is what my commute looked like on the right-hand side, but I save 2 hours every day. My wife and I are able to go for a walk every evening in the sunlight. My wife and I never saw sunlight before when we came home because we worked late and came back late. And more companies are talking about instituting weekly work from home days, even after COVID-19 ends, because they found that it was pretty good. And so I believe that companies will go to 1 or 2 days work from home regular in the future. And so blended will become the new normal for work. And so will healthcare, as more and more companies and healthcare places are using telemedicine. And I believe so will education. The new normal for education is going to be blended. So I drew a little chart here to show sort of the trend, and where in fall of 2019, it was 100% in person. The blue curve shows the in-person learning, and the green curve online. And then in March 20th, we completely flipped. We went to 100% online and 0%, virtually 0% in person. And this will continue through spring. And I believe this will also continue. This is my belief. This is not, I'm not speaking for any university. I believe that fall of 2020 will also be mostly online. And then come spring, as people begin coming back to campuses and so on, I believe that there is no going back to the old normal. I believe that some fraction of courses will be online. And so you'll see that online will be maybe 10, 20%, but it'll go back to mostly in person in spring of 2021. But then for the next few years, as more and more universities begin creating online courses and begin building up capacity, within a few years, I believe that this will presage the era of blended. And whether it's 50-50 blended, whether it's 40-60, 30-70, I don't know. But I believe that within a few years, it will become blended, and COVID-19 will have been that lightning rod that will be helping us create this new normal. Next slide, please. This chart, I call this chart the inverted pan curve for online adoption, where the inverted pan line curve for online adoption, where before COVID was purely in person. During COVID, these days, it became the era of Zoom. And then we'll see a gulf where true online and teaching begins, but we don't have much capacity yet. And then as it ramps up, we come to the panhandle, which will be the future of blended learning. So with that, let me stop there, and I'll be happy to take questions, and I'll stop here.
Thank you very much, Anant. Thank you for this very insightful presentation. I would like to ask the audience to please submit your questions through the chat. And while the audience is doing that, let me start with a few questions, Anant. First one is, when you came in 2014 for your first PCoOL presentation, you shared with us a vision for a world where online education would be a new normal. And it has not really panned out. What makes you think that this time around, the curve that you have here will come true and things will be different?
Suleiman, I trust you to ask the hard question first. You know, even without COVID-19, the world was moving towards blended learning. At many universities, like IT University in Pakistan, at Jain University in India, more and more universities were moving to blended, but the time constant was very, very, very slow. I'm an impatient guy. I'd like to see things move much faster, but the time constant was very slow. At MIT, for example, 99% of undergraduate students, this was last year, this is not today's data, was last year, well before COVID, a year ago, were using the edX platform on campus. And that doesn't count all the other forms of blended learning. This is just 99% using the edX platform on campus. And so during the residential use. And so we were seeing a move towards blended already. But I think what will happen is that the COVID moment here will just drastically change the time constant. And from being a very slow adoption, we'll see a drastic change, which will take us to the new normal. And the reason is that many more faculty and many more students will have gotten a taste of online learning. 100% went online. In the past, I could not get the time of day from many faculty members around the world to create an online course. They were too busy. But many of them have taught online now, and many of them have told me, hey, you know what? This was the best course experience I've had in my career. And others have said, you know what? This is not bad at all. And so I believe that there'll be faster adoption, which will completely change the time constant of blended learning on campus.
We have a question from Justin from SPS, and his question is, during the course of COVID-19, we have seen incredible adoption of online learning, but have also seen massive failures to meet the needs of underrepresented communities where high-speed internet, prohibitively expensive hardware, and even quiet study space are simply not available to learners. How do you envision narrowing the access gap for these communities in the new normal of online learning?
It is unfortunate that there are still communities around the world that don't have access to internet, that don't have the right hardware. Much like education is a human right, one could argue that the internet, just like water and air, it should be a human right. The World Bank has projected that by 2022, everybody in the world will have broadband will have access to broadband, either through a mobile phone, a smartphone, or other means. So we're just 2 years out. Can we do something? I think, we're not in the business of hardware or the internet, but we are working with a number of internet providers to provide zero-rated content, essentially free bandwidth for people who are using edX. So we can create such partnerships. But I think the world is moving very quickly to bandwidth access to people all over the world. And always edX courses are fully available online on your smartphone. So you can do edX courses on your smartphone. So I think it's not the exact answer to your question. My point is that we are rapidly getting there, and it will happen within two years or thereabouts.
We have a question from Rachel from our COIMC campus. Have you heard about any creative solutions for health sciences students who must learn clinical skills? Ultimately, they must work with real patients, volunteers. During this pandemic, what are some of these creative health sciences solutions that you have come through?
I think we've seen an interest in our healthcare courses skyrocket. And more and more people are coming to take those courses. We've launched a course on ventilator use from Harvard and Mass General Hospital. on how to use ventilators. And we have 180,000 people around the world, mostly healthcare professionals, taking the course. So a lot of large parts of medicine can be taught online. And there are some aspects, it's like simulation for teaching people how to fly. 95% of learning how to fly is based on a simulator, and then you spend a small amount of your time actually flying. Similarly with healthcare, with telemedicine and healthcare, I think there'll be a huge shift to telemedicine. I think just like work, which will become blended, education will become blended, and healthcare will become blended as companies like CVS and others are moving hugely to telemedicine. And so, and in the same way, I believe medical education as well, where you can have local centers. We have talked to many universities who are offering medical courses in edX, where they're talking about offering all the theory and things that you can teach online. You teach that online, and then you have some practicum in local centers where students go for practicum. We're also talking about virtual labs. We work with a company that is working with some of our university partners to create virtual labs where it's amazing. It's a virtual 3D, virtual reality lab where you see a discombobulated hand, and then you go in and you can manipulate labs and objects, and I can easily see that working with a virtual cadaver and where you're dissecting and things like that. And it's great for me because I faint at the sight of blood. Maybe I could have been a doctor instead and wouldn't have been haranguing you online here, if the online modality had been available. So I think we'll see many approaches to teaching all kinds of things online, or by creating localized centers and localized best practice places where people can go and learn things by hand.
Thank you. A question from Kim. You mentioned that blended learning is the optimal, which means some in person and some online. Yet if COVID takes us all online in the fall, how do you integrate the positives of blended learning? Does that include a combination of live with pre-recorded? So how to adapt the pedagogy if the fall is fully online?
I think we all have to be prepared for the fall to be fully online. I think a lot of people who have not been doing online learning, first of all, a lot of people who have not been doing online learning don't believe that online, in many respects, can be as good or better than in person. Many people don't believe that. And so simply granting that the online experience for many courses and in many ways can be almost as good, or in some cases better, than in-person learning. To me, that's a big step ahead already. There are ways in which you can bring in some of the benefits of in-person interaction. So, giving video lectures by Zoom is not online learning. Okay, if you want a soundbite, please take it. Video lectures using Zoom is not online learning. And so I think that you can bring in some of the live interaction using components, not fully online, not fully Zoom, but maybe bring in small group session interaction where people are interacting using Zoom or some live interaction. The other thing that you can do is maybe within a family, maybe as we let people mingle together, we can create small group interactions where people in the community can meet. As one example, I know some people in our town, my daughter, goes out and they sit in two cars and park 6 feet apart and talk to each other through windows. Maybe we can have we allow people gradually to move into libraries, or maybe even into schools and so on in a small way, and meet in small groups. So again, I'm just brainstorming here, but I think there might be ways of bringing in some of that in person this fall as well. But it's going to be very challenging. I think it's going to be very difficult to do so.
So Reyes is actually picking on what you just said, Anand, and she's saying that indeed during COVID-19 we are teaching online, not doing online teaching, and so there are many skills that need to be learned in order to do a course like the ones you had described. Given that we have the attention of the faculty because they had to do this teaching online this spring, Any thoughts on the need for solid professional development for instructors? And in what way can edX help with that?
I think it's a great question, and we'd love to partner with you on that. We are rapidly creating courses on how to teach online. We have a number of courses. UT Arlington launched a course on pivoting to online teaching on March 15th. edX will be launching another course on teaching online broadly and best practices. So that will be coming out soon. We also have existing courses on edX. If you Google edX course creator, it's a professional certificate which has 4 or 5 courses. It talks about, it's called edX 101. It's a course on best practices for online teaching. It's got how to make engaging videos. It's got a course on blended learning. So you have a number of courses, number of short courses as part of this professional certificate on edX. Google edX course creator. And you can take these courses that talk about how to build capacity on campuses, how to teach online, what are the best practices. And this is not rocket science. We can all do this. It's not hard. And so let's use this moment to get faculty and educators to begin thinking about in a much bigger way than we have in the past. And your own teaching and learning divisions can help here and leverage these edX courses, leverage your own courses and training. And if there are other ways in which edX can help, I'm all ears. We'd love to do that. edX has a discussion group for faculty where faculty are discussing all about online stuff. Join that group. So all of these are possibilities.
And a big shout out to our Center for Teaching and Learning for the wonderful work that they have been doing for our faculty. Speaking of best practices, Victoria is asking, what best practices has edX shared with faculty and students to support academic integrity values in online learning?
It's a great question. And I hope your Center of Teaching and Learning will one day invite me to give a talk completely on that topic. I believe I can talk about 10 best practices to improve the integrity. The number of ways you can do it, and edX has worked really hard to launch a number of mechanisms to improve integrity. For one thing, we have virtual proctoring on our platform. Our MicroMasters courses, including the business analytics from Columbia and the AI from Columbia, and also many of our MicroBachelors programs include virtual proctoring, where you can actually proctor online. And tens of thousands of students are able to get proctored online. That is one. Second example, we've launched a number of mechanisms on edX to improve integrity. One is we have randomized problem banks you can use on edX to give randomized problem sets to students for an exam. My own circuits course picks from a problem bank of dozens of questions, so people get different questions. edX platform supports that. Third, we have you can have timed exams on edX. Fourth, you can also have an exam after the timing is done, shuts down, so no one has access to the exam. There's many, many, many techniques that we have that use these best practices. We also talk about best practices on how many tries you give students. For homeworks, you give them many, many tries, but for exams, you limit number of tries. We have another feature on edX where when you learn for homeworks and problem sets, you want to show the answer when a student is stumped, or you want to give a hint. And so, but for an exam, you want to prevent show answer until the exam time is done. And so we have all of these features on edX, and it's incredible. And I can easily write down a top 10 list using features that we built into edX to improve the integrity of assignments and exams and so on, to make sure that what you're measuring is the student's own work.
Our colleague Zarina is asking a technical question.
Thank you for this talk. My question is about how can a lot of the things that we do also at the Center for Teaching and Learning is to build customized tools for online learning. And most of the tools we build is for blended learning, whereas the component of live course, and then the tool that we build is something that they do outside of that course. A lot of will edX be open to collaboration with university developers and programmers like us, where we would be given the medium or the means to develop custom or customized learning tools that works natively with the courses that we put out?
Absolutely. The answer is absolutely in a categoric yes. And I suspect that we're already working with Suleiman and Sandesh and your heroes on doing some of this joint development for tools. First of all, I want to point out that the edX platform, we are the only MOOC platform that's open source. If I haven't mentioned it before, we're also the only platform that's non-profit. In addition, because it's open source, we get huge developments from the community and components. We have a technique called X blocks, where you can develop an X block and that module plugs into edX. You can plug in using LTI. There's many ways of plugging it into edX, and we really encourage you to not only develop these modules, but then release them as open source. We have 54 different assessment types on edX, more than any MOOC platform. And majority of them have come from the community, from folks such as yourselves.
Next is a question from Natalie about interpersonal relationships.
I was wondering if you might be able to speak to the concerns pertaining to online teaching and learning. I'm specifically interested in sort of factors related to interpersonal relationships, connectedness, things that are built around learning, in addition to learning,
Sure.
And how you see those needs being met if we were to transition to online
Sure.
teaching and learning long term.
Sure, Natalie. A great question, Natalie. I've been very careful to say that online is really good in many things, and in-person is many good in many things, right? But the blended is simply better. And so what you mentioned, the interpersonal part, where I'm talking to somebody else and having a discussion is just one example. And I was talking to my daughter who's learning online. She's in the next room. And I asked her, how do you like this online thing? She's a junior at MIT. And asked her, how do you find this? She said, oh, it's not bad. So I said, give me one example, one concrete example of something that you miss. She really likes the fact that many classes are online because she can wake up at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and pause and rewind and all of that stuff. She doesn't have to miss a class because it's at 9 o'clock in the morning and all the other good stuff. I said, give me one example of something that you miss. And what she said was very telling. And all of you should have observed this. When we talk to each other, when we discuss with each other and we're animated, it turns out that conversation normally, you're talking over each other. It's normal. An animated conversation, you're talking over each other. But it's very hard to talk over each other and have that engaged conversation online. In the Zoom that we're in here, it's very hard to talk over each other. And so she said she's really missing that because she and her friends in the dorm rooms at 3 o'clock at night would be talking over each other, finishing sentences. It's hard to do that online. And you try it yourself, try to talk over somebody else in the next Zoom meeting you're in. It's hard, you can't do it. And so that is one example of something that we will miss. And so that is why blended is the right way to go, where you get the best of online and you get the best of in person.
Thank you, Anant. You've spoken about online degree programs through edX. What makes these online degree programs unique? And how different are they from online degree programs offered by your competitors such as Coursera or online program managers like Trio?
Great question, Suleiman. I think that there are a number of substantial and foundational differences. You mentioned 2U, you mentioned Coursera. There's many of them. Noodle partners, there's academic partnerships, there's Pearson, Wiley, there's, the list goes on and on and on and on. And there's edX. The difference between edX and all of these other players, edX is the only nonprofit in the space. edX is the only nonprofit partner that will work with you on creating online degrees. Everybody else is for-profit. And to me, that is very fundamental. I've started 5 for-profit companies. edX is my first nonprofit venture. And I can tell you that the way you think, the way you behave is fundamentally different as a nonprofit. And I believe that when it comes to education, and particularly for degree education, I believe it should be in the province of nonprofits, where there have been enough articles about for-profits hiding under the guise of nonprofit universities and having the same practices. But with edX, we are a nonprofit, and beyond that, there are many other differences. One is that we try to be innovative beyond the nonprofit. We try to be innovative, where our degrees are stacked. We have the MicroMasters, and we stack up the rest of the degree on top of that. We're creating new innovations for learners. And edX is unique in our ability to do that. And in fact, many of the for-profit competitors have come to edX, and they would like to license MicroMasters. And as a nonprofit, if this makes sense, we might do it. And so we are innovating rapidly. That's another big example. The third, we are trying to do what's in the best interest of students and the universities. For-profit providers take between 40, 50, 60, 70% of the revenue, and a much smaller fraction comes to university. With edX, we completely flip it around. We have a sliding scale where the percentage of revenue that comes to university increases from 65% all the way to 75% comes to you. And so these are just some examples. Also, a platform is open source so that you're not locked into edX. If at some point you want to go do it yourself, sure. You launch an open edX platform and you launch your own degrees. And so you can do that as well. So we give you the option. To my knowledge, most of the for-profit players require you to launch on a non-open source platform, a true open source platform. So again, they want to get a lock-in with you. So there's all of these reasons, and I think they fundamentally arise from a nonprofit nature.
Thank you so much, Anand. Thank you for coming for the second time to the Provost Conversation on Learning. It's a wonderful pleasure to have you. And we look forward to many more years of partnership with edX and to this new normal. Thank you.